we will talk about our VCS strategy and council priorities, our grants principles that those have fed into, an overview of the grants programme, general eligibility and due diligence, our commitments as a funder, and then next steps. So that's what we'll be running through today. So I'm now going to pass over to our lead members, Councillor Chris Kennedy and Councillor Joe Walker, who are going to talk a little bit about the programme and a bit of the background as well. So Councillor Kennedy, over to you first. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you ever so much. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit older than that picture now. I'm Councillor Chris Kennedy. I'm the Cabinet Member for Health and Adults, the Voluntary and Community Sector and Culture here at the London Borough of Hackney. The first thing I want to say is how wonderful it is to see so many organisations on the call, over 150 of us now. That's absolutely brilliant. Every single one of you will be a representative of an organisation that in some way has really helped the people of Hackney during the course of the last year, and in very many cases, very many years, if not decades before that. Thank you all for the amazing work you do. Supporting you and trying to support you is the absolute drive of the council. We have a brilliant team of officers here who've worked on our grant programmes in the past, on this programme today, many of them on the call, many of them you will know personally. So my personal thanks to those officers for all the work they've done. If we slip forward onto the next slide, please. I think I've already said to you what an amazing asset you are as a sector to the borough, to our residents, and the work you have done with us. And of course, over the years, we've always run a grants programme, trying to support you in all the work you do. Of course, that's changed over the years. And if we think about the main reasons for that, the drivers for that change really, as we move on to the next slide, happened during the pandemic and the subsequent cost of living crisis. We, as you have had to do as organisations, have had to become a lot more strategic in the way that we invest our money and use our money. Two very key pieces of work that I'll talk about a little later are our strategic plan and our equality plan that we use as a council to inform everything that we're doing. But the cost of living crisis doesn't just hit individuals, it hits organisations. We as a council have significantly less money to invest across everything we do, like many other major organisations. So part of what we've been doing and the work we've had to do has been driven by having less resource ourselves. But we've decided to use that as an opportunity to talk to you and to actually do our best to understand how you work, how we can work better with you in these times of hardship. If we slip forward onto the next slide, as I said, two main things that absolutely drive the way we do that, the strategic plan and our equality plan. So from the strategic plan, there's sort of like two key driving factors. That's promoting the prosperity and the well-being of all our citizens in as targeted a way as we possibly can, and building communities that work together and support each other. Those are the two main drivers that come from our strategic plan. And then out of the equality plan, being absolutely clear all the way through that we want to drive out those inequalities that you and I know exist throughout our residents. Very often the very reason for your organisation existing will be your own desire to try and wipe out that inequality. At the same time, building opportunity and trying to encourage and enhance the well-being of all the people we work with, and celebrating the richness and the vibrancy and the wonderfulness of the place that is Hackney, that drew many of us here in the first place. The Mayor, Caroline Woodley, is acutely aware of how important it is, how important our relationship with you as a sector is, and for that reason she appointed who's worked really hard on this new strategy and the new grants programme, and that's a Deputy Cabinet Member for Neighbourhoods. I'm delighted to introduce, many of you will know him already through all the hard work he's been doing, Councillor Joe Walker.
Thank you so much, Chris, for that introduction. And can I just echo Chris's words of thanks really to you as a sector for all the incredible work that you do day in, day out, every month, every year, really to support some of our most vulnerable residents and communities. And there's many of you on this call that we've worked in partnership with over many years. Some who we haven't yet, but we look forward to working in partnership with you going forward. So just, a real thanks for all the work that you do. So I just want to sort of move forward to sort of look at the approach that we're taking as we kind of launch this new grants programme. And as we start to sort of look at how we would launch a new grants programme, and as Chris kind of alluded to, with less resource, we wanted to ensure that we were being far more strategic around where we put our investment into the sector. But to do that, we had to do that with you. And we've spent the last year working with you as a sector to really look at how best we can invest into the sector, how best we can work with you, and looking at where our investment goes. And we did this through kind of a series of events. I think many of you on this call would have attended over a year ago now the Togetherness Conference that we held with HCVS, which was really a start of the conversation with you to kind of look at what a reset relationship with the council looked like, but also kind of looking at how we wanted to move forward and change our grants programme. We then kind of moved forward with a series of consultations using workshops. Many of you attended those workshops over the first part of this year. And that was really helpful for us because we were able to meet you face to face in a room to really hear about the challenges and the issues that you face as a sector, but also to hear about what worked in terms of the relationship that you had with us as a council, but what didn't work as well. And I think that's really helped to sort of inform and shape this grants programme that we are launching today. Could we move on to the next slide, please? So looking at the approach that we've sort of wanted to take, so we've really wanted to sort of focus on trust and relationship and partnership. Trust in you as frontline organisations that are delivering really key services to many of our residents, and also about relationship and the fact that none of this can really work. We can't work with you as a sector if we don't have a relationship with you. And as I started at the beginning, we worked with many of you over many years, some we haven't yet, and we really want to continue that process of building up relationship with you, understanding the work that you do, but also learning from you as well. And I think the third thing is it's about partnership, and it's about real partnership, not just using that word, but also looking at what partnership means in practice, getting around the table together and really coming up with collective solutions to really kind of drive forward how we really tackle some of the needs across our borough. We really want to look at innovation as well, and that's really going to be one of the areas that we want to invest in through this grants programme, and really looking at how we can invest in new ideas, better ideas, to really sort of tackle some of these issues in our borough. And looking at systems of support for our residents that are both strengths-based, trauma-informed, and I think really importantly, anti-racist. And Chris talked about our equalities plan. We've really driven all of these plans and redesigned this grants program through our equalities program, ensuring that many organizations, many individuals that may have felt sort of excluded before, or that their voices weren't heard and their experiences weren't heard. We've really worked hard to sort of look at how you are part of that plan going forward, and that we are listening to you and learning from your experiences. Can we move to the next slide, please? And so alongside our grants program, we have refreshed our voluntary and community sector strategy. The last one we published in 2019. The world has changed quite significantly since then. We've been through the pandemic, we've been through the cost of living crisis, and we've really had to sort of look at how we are better and more strategic at investing into the sector going forward. And so we didn't want to just put together a 2 or 3 year plan, but we really wanted to sort of put together a 10-year plan, which would really kind of look at sort of a long-term delivery of how the council works with the sector, and to really reset that relationship, but to, as I said before, look at partnership, and look at the way that we can work with you better, unlocking new resource, looking at the issues of power and decision making, and ensuring that together and not separately, so breaking down some of those silos, which many of us know have been there for many years, to really look at how we tackle some of the big issues that we know many of our communities and many of our vulnerable residents face in our borough today. And so we focused really on 5 main areas. So it was the way we work, investment and funding, premises, and using our assets. And I think an important part of that is, on top of our grants program, we also invest over 700,000 into the sector a year, in hosting many of our VCS organisations in many of our council assets across the borough. And that's an important investment that we're very committed to, working with you as a sector. Volunteering and social action, and we work very closely with many of you who work with volunteers and are delivering fantastic work across the borough, and we want to continue to do that. And infrastructure as well, and working with our partners HCVS and Interlink and others, to ensure that as a council, we are really ensuring that we are both investing and focusing on the right issues for the sector going forward. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, I'm going to now hand over to the rest of the team, who are going to take you through the grants program this morning. But I just want to say, on behalf of myself and Chris, again, thank you for all the work you do. Good luck with the next process. We really look forward to kind of seeing who comes forward to apply for funding for this year, and to be working with you over the next year to really be delivering for all of the residents in Hackney.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Good morning, everyone. So it was really important that we translated what we're trying to achieve through the refreshed voluntary and community sector strategy into how we invest in VCS through these grants. So the approach we took was to develop a set of principles that would just make sure that we were doing this. So building on the engagement undertaken with VCS partners in the autumn that Councillor Walker referred to, we co-designed a set of principles with sector partners in our workshops in the spring. So these principles we put together are in place to guide who, how, and what we fund. Next slide, please. So in order to invest in a way guided by our principles and based on learning from our own work as well as the wider sector, we've put the following grants programme in place, which we'll talk through in further detail. The areas for the grants are core grants, project innovation grants, VCS infrastructure grants, a collaboration and co-production fund, which is really in place to support small organisations to enable to participate in our work and do that sort of collaboration and partnership that Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Walker have referred to. and a new round of Healthier Hackney delivered in collaboration with our colleagues in public health. I'll pass over now to Lisa.
Thank you, Claire. That's a really helpful overview. So this is perhaps a little bit of a misleading chart, but it was just to give you kind of an overview of what the programme looks like for this year. So obviously our financial year started in April, so this is our budget breakdown until March 2026. So as you are all aware, we have experienced significant savings to our budgets from this year onwards. So our grant programme does look quite different to how it used to. But just for kind of a bit of context, the largest programme that we'll be funding is our core grants programme. So for the rest of this year, we've got around 300,000 for this programme. Going forward, it will be about £1 million that we invest through core grants every year. We then have our Project Innovation Fund, which this year we have around 100,000 to put towards our VCS infrastructure, which we've got 50,000 to invest in this year, and the Collaboration and Co-production Fund that Claire mentioned, which is to help smaller organisations participate in our processes. We have around £5,000 for this for the rest of this year. So going forward, we'll have a similar pattern to this, but we'll talk about each programme in a little bit more detail for you to kind of understand where it sits within our programme as a whole. So our core grants programme, which is our biggest programme, this is essentially based on learning from not only our own funding, but other funders as well, and the sector more widely. And we've also really learnt from our advice, community infrastructure and lunch clubs grants to really put this programme together. So in line with our grants principles, we want to fund organisations for purpose rather than projects through this fund. So it's aligned to our principle of funding in a trusting and enabling way that helps to strengthen organisations. So through this programme, we're going to be offering core grants for up to 5 years in total for organisations who are really supporting residents who are at increased risk of harm due to entrenched inequalities. They're supporting residents in a person-centred and trauma-informed and anti-racist way, and also working in collaboration with other partners across the system to best support residents. So organisations who are really working in that kind of way, rather than just funding a project, we want to fund their core to exist. So as I mentioned, this is our largest grants programme, and going forward we'll have around £1 million a year to invest in this way. Our application process will be 2-stage, so that will include an expression of interest form followed by a more in-depth application, and the expression of interest forms are now live and the deadline for those is 15th of September. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Tom, who's going to talk through a couple of the other funds. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. We'll be launching the Project Innovation Fund, as Lisa mentioned. This is based on our learning from the previous project grants and community chest programmes, which ran for the last few years. Although we're moving towards more core funding in general, we recognise that short-term and project funding can support innovation and smaller organisations, which is why we have this project funding within the programme. The funding will be for short-term projects up to 12 months, with grants of up to £10,000 available. And the fund is specifically for smaller organisations with an annual income of less than 250,000. Projects in general will be expected to work towards our grants principles, so that means a strong focus on tackling inequalities. There's £100,000 available for this fund for this year. We'll have 2 rounds of funding this financial year, but this will be significantly less for the next year and beyond due to the savings we have to make. The deadline for the first round of this is the 15th of September, and we'll be launching round 2 later in this financial year, so prior to April 2026. Next slide, please. So for VCS infrastructure, we're committed to ensuring that it's an appropriate and future-proofed and adequately resourced support system for voluntary sector organisations like yourselves. This is to access capacity building and volunteer support. And this is why we're continuing to fund Hackney CVS, Interlink Foundation and Volunteer Centre Hackney this year, whilst aiming to better understand the needs of the sector going forward in future years. Our aim is to relaunch the voluntary sector VCS infrastructure programme in January 2026, with new grants available from April 2026. Sorry, slow computer, just catching up. So as part of this programme, we'd like to work with Hackney-based Black and Global Majority-led organisations to develop an infrastructure programme for smaller Black and Global Majority-led organisations, which considers the following and how in the current systems it's shaped by colonialism. We want to be considering capacity building, Black and Global Majority leadership, networking, networks and advocacy, and volunteering support for all of these. Recognising that infrastructure and capacity building support leads to understand the barriers and systemic inequity organisations would face. The Black and Global Majority infrastructure grants we will test this year and then incorporate into the wider programme for 2026 onwards. Similar to the core grants programme, there will be two-stage application, which will be an expression of interest form, followed by a visit to the shortlisted organisations. The deadline for the expression of interest form is for the 4th of September. Now I'll pass over to public health colleagues to talk about their Healthier Hackney programme.
Thank you very much, Tom. And yeah, just a single slide from me, a very brief overview. It's the second round of the Healthier Hackney grants. It opens today. It's a fund that's been set up to fund innovative, community-led projects that support inactive people in Hackney to become more active and to help them sustain healthy movement habits. For this grant, we've got a total funding pot of 322,000, and it's available for VCSE organisations based in or operating in Hackney. And the programme that we have will run over a 2.5-year period. Within the total funding pot, there are 4 streams that you can apply for. So we've maintained a generic pot with a focus on communities and groups of interest. And more details on this can be found in the Healthy Hackney Guidance Pack, which I hope has been sent to you, and if not, it will be sent after this webinar this morning. Second, we have Family Play, which is for families with young children, older adults, 50+, and it's to keep people moving for longer, and small activation grants of up to £1,000 each, and this is to support organisations to set up new initiatives. There's some very brief details here on the types of things we're looking for, but I would strongly advise you to go and read the full Healthy Hackney guidance. And we do have an information webinar on this later in the week as well that I'd also recommend you attend if you have any questions as well. Key dates for the Healthy Hackney grant. So applications are open today. As I said, we'll be holding a more detailed information session on Thursday this week. I'll walk through the full guidance with you, and there'll be a chance there to ask any questions you might have. The deadline for Healthy Hackney grants applications is the 5th of September, and we have a view to project starting in November this year. Thank you. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Connor. I'll be talking to you about the deadlines and its timescales now. Just as Connor has mentioned, all the applications have opened today. This time outlines the deadlines for each application. So core grants expression of interest stage deadline is 15th of September. Project Innovation Fund Round 1 application deadline is 15th September as well. Black and Global Majority VCS infrastructure expression of interest deadline is 4th September. Healthier Hackney application deadline is 15th September. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'll be talking to you now about the general eligibility. Our eligibility criteria has remained the same as previous years. These are: organizations must be a registered voluntary community and social enterprise structure. Organization must be operating at a local level in Hackney, or an unregistered but formally constituted voluntary community social enterprise. Organization must be operating at a local level in Hackney with a bank account in their name or a host organization to support them, or are a registered charitable company or social enterprise with a registration number on Companies House. They must have company asset lock, be only not-for-profit and without share capital. For Project Innovation Fund, we also accept TRAs and group residents. Private businesses and individuals are not eligible to apply for grant funding. Next slide, please. I'll continue with the eligibility criteria. At least 80% of the people benefiting from the fund request must be Hackney residents. Priority will be given to organizations who are user-led or have a strong commitment to involving beneficiary and using lived experience in the design and delivery of their programs. Priority will be given to organizations based within Hackney. Some income restriction will be applied for specific funds. So check this, please. It is highly unlikely that we will give organization a grant via more than one of our funding stream. Please contact us to discuss further before you put your application in. Thank you. I hand over to Tom now.
Thank you, Moya. So as part of our process this year, we've simplified our due diligence procedure. We're having due diligence in order to ensure grants are meeting our eligibility criteria, as Moya has described above, and protect council investment from fraud. We undertake robust due diligence checks as part of our assessment process. Further details on the due diligence requirements for each programme can be found in the specific programme guidance. But generally, we ask for governing documents if they're not publicly available, or your accounts if they're not publicly available. If you are successful in receiving a grant, we'll also ask for a safeguarding and health and safety policy, relevant insurance details, and a recent bank statement so that we can pay your grant and check that it's going to the right account. We simplified this slightly, as said, and hope this makes it easier for organisations when applying. So how will we make decisions? Our grant principles will guide the way that we fund, the who, why, and how. We'll have an increased focus on inequalities and those who have been failed by the system. Council officers and voluntary sector representatives will continue to assess and make panel decisions, as has been the case before. The new opportunities for voluntary sector representatives to be remunerated via our collaboration and co-production fund will help this process as well. You can find out more and express your interest via the form, which will be available after this presentation. Back over to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Tom. So we've obviously gone through some of these changes already, but I just wanted to kind of highlight them again. So other changes to the programme. So we do have a new application portal with new login procedures. So hopefully you will have seen some of our communications around that. We have put some guidance in place, some instructions and some video guidance as well that's on our website. But if you are having any issues with the new portal, then please do just pop us an email or give us a ring. As Tom mentioned, the simplified due diligence, which we hope will make things a bit easier for organisations. The collaboration and co-production fund that Tom mentioned is in place to support smaller organisations take part in our assessment process, and also that increased focus on our equality plan alongside our new grants principles for decision making. I do also want to highlight that, like many teams across the council, our service is also undergoing significant changes and a restructure. So there may well be changes to the team coming over the coming months. So just to say thank you in advance for your understanding. Obviously, it's quite a difficult time and we're trying to manage capacity and whilst delivering an ambitious new programme. So thank you in advance for your understanding on this. I did also want to talk about managing demand. So we already know that our grants programme was heavily oversubscribed. We had about a 20% success rate in some of our funds the last few years, and it's likely to be even more competitive this year. Obviously, the reduction to the grants programme also means that there's less funding available generally. So we do have to make sure that our funding is supporting people living in difficult circumstances, at risk of harm and affected by entrenched inequalities as per our grants principles. So we are really focusing on funding through those principles now. So we do encourage organisations to speak to us in advance of making an application, just to make sure, are you applying for the right thing? Are you investing your time wisely? what are the kind of chances of that your kind of organisation being funded. So do have a chat to us in advance, because we know it can be really difficult to invest a lot of time in applying for something and not be successful. We don't want to kind of cause extra work for organisations. So do give us a ring. And I guess obviously this isn't hard facts, but just to give you a sense of what demand could look like. So for this launch event alone, we had a 225% increase in sign-ups from last year. So obviously it's just for this launch event, but I think that gives a sense of how many more people are going to be applying for grants this year. So there's a lot. We already have to make very difficult decisions, and it's going to be even harder this year, I think. But that's just to give you a sense of what's happening, really. So our commitments as a funder, so obviously aligned with our grants principle, we want to be an open and trusting funder who works in collaboration with our partners to learn together. Through this, we strive to adhere to IVAR's 8 commitments for flexible funding, and they include being open, being flexible, and being proportionate. So for the past several years, we've published all of our grants data on 360 Giving, and we'll continue to do that. So you can always log into that or look on our website and see who we funded and what we funded them for. And I guess just to highlight, this is all a learning journey. So as part of our principle to invest in ways that help us all to continually learn and work together as a system, we are committed to using more holistic approaches to monitoring and evaluation, and moving just beyond traditional approaches of looking at numbers and output. So we want to work together with organisations who are funded to develop, test and adapt to monitoring and evaluation approaches and learning systems throughout the life cycle of our grants. And these methods will help us learn from and with our partners who are closest to the services our residents need. We hope to use this learning to help shape and influence the delivery of services beyond our team, kind of across the council, and hopefully across the system as well. So any monitoring requests that we do ask for will be in light of our grants principles and our flexible funder commitments, whilst being mindful of our duty to ensure that public money is robustly accounted for. So in terms of next steps, so I really encourage you to have a look on our website. On there you can access our VCS prospectus, which gives an overview of the whole programme, kind of the principles, how we got to this place. There's then a more detailed guidance document for each grants programme as well, and that goes through the application process, all the questions you'll be asked for, and step-by-step guidance, and also any kind of restrictions per fund. As we've explained in this presentation, it does vary slightly between the different schemes. We've also got our information session for each grants programme, which are happening this week. Those were communicated a couple of weeks ago, so I know lots of people have signed up to them already, but there's also the links to sign up to those on our website. Those will also all be recorded, and they'll be put on our website as soon as possible over the coming days. So if you can't come to the information session, it will be on there as well for you to have a look at, and all of the slides will be up on the website in the coming days as well. We have put together an FAQ document that talks about the changes to the programme, so do have a look at that if you've got any immediate questions, and hopefully that will help guide. There's some kind of information there about if you have previously applied to a certain fund, what kind of fund might you want to look at this time. So have a look through those FAQs, but do contact us to speak to a member of the team before applying. As I said, we don't want you to spend a lot of time writing an application where it might be better if you apply to a different fund instead. Additional application support is available through Hackney CVS and also the East London Business Alliance, so you'll be able to go to them for some free application support. As also mentioned, you can sign up to be part of our assessment process, and smaller organisations will be able to get some funding to participate in that through our collaboration and co-production fund, which we're really pleased to have online for this year. And then just to mention a couple of other bits as well. So there are other pots of funding available from the council at the moment. So for example, the community fund that's run by the planning team using community infrastructure levy funding, and that opened last week. That is very different to our programme. It's run by a different team. There's different criteria and guidance and everything. So do have a look at their website and contact them directly if you've got any questions about the community fund. And also just to let you know, organisations who have applied for discretionary rates relief before, the new application for that should be available on the website. If it's not there now, it should be there by the end of the day. But again, that has changed for our new grant system as well, so just to be aware of that too. So our contact details are on this slide should you want to get in touch with us. Please note we are extremely busy this week just getting all of these grants launched and all the information sessions, so we will get back to you as soon as possible, but it might be worth popping us an email and we can arrange a time to call you back to discuss your application. We do appreciate you will probably have lots of questions about the new programme, and especially as there are many changes this year. So as I said, we have created that FAQs document, so do have a look at that, and also just pop us any questions that you have as well. We do know that this is a really challenging time across the sector. There's increased demand, there's less funding available. There's obviously lots of changes to our programmes and others as well. So thank you so much for your continued work to support Hackney residents and for your understanding and patience when dealing with the significant changes that we've had to make as well. And I did just want to say a huge thank you to the grants team, specifically Deirdre, Moyo, Sue, Tom, and also Joe Blackwood, who have worked really, really hard to put this programme together. I think they've done an absolutely brilliant job, and it's been a huge amount of work. So thank you to all of them as well. And yeah, thank you to all of you for joining us today. Best of luck for your applications if you do choose to make one. But yeah, please do contact us if you've got any questions at all. These slides and the recording will be up on the website over the coming days. I'm also going to get a message from Eventbrite just to kind of summarise all of this information, and there's also a feedback form on there as well if you've got any comments to feedback to us so that we can learn for the future as well. So thank you all very much. I'm going to stop recording now, and I'm also just going to have a look at the chat to make sure that we've answered all of those questions. So I'll stop recording now, but thank you all so much for coming along today. And why isn't it letting me stop recording? Sorry, 1 second. If someone in the grants team could just have a look in the chat, have we managed to answer everything, or is there anything